Well, it's apparent from the interview that I had with Paul Borthwick that we were trying to focus on the idea of sowing in our Jerusalem and Judea, whatever that may look like in your particular context. And I asked you previously in the first activity in Unit 1 to begin to identify all the different ministries and programs and committees and such that your church was engaged in. And now I'm going to ask you to take that one step further and do an exercise. I'm going to ask you to take that entire list and I'm going to ask you to create what we call a Likert scale. And it's simply a rating system between 1 and 7. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to assess from your vantage point how much evangelism is a part of each one of those activities. For example, the scale of 1 to 7 would go something like this. If you assess it as a number 1, it means that evangelism is really not a priority at all. Number 2, if you assess it as a 2, means evangelism is simply a low priority. Number 3 would mean that evangelism may occur occasionally, but it's not really planned. Rated as a 4, and it means evangelism would play a consistent role in your pre-planning. A number 5, if that's your rating, what you're saying is it occurs regularly, but it's more organic. It happens naturally. If you rate that activity as a number 6, it means you're being very intentional about evangelism and strategic in what you're planning. And finally, if you rate it as a number 7, then you're saying this is really the heartbeat of that ministry. Now, here's a key thought, though, for you. You see, I don't want you to simply rate these based on what you observe, because you may not really be actively involved in those ministries. And so you need to identify who the key leader is in each one of those activities and ask them how they would rate it. And that's question number 1. So really all they have to do, you provide the scale and you ask them to rate how evangelistically oriented is this particular aspect of your church's ministry. And then the second question, which is probably more insightful and valuable to you in the bigger scope of things, is to ask them how many individuals as a result of that activity have they seen come to faith in Christ during the past year, and are those individuals really continuing to grow in their faith? In other words, is there a discipleship process that is ongoing where you're seeing fruit of their growth? You see, this is part of assessing how effective we're being in our Jerusalem and in our Judea. And then at the end, you can do the math as you go back to that chart and look at all of the evaluations that you've made on that Likert scale, and it's going to show you which areas, based on the responses that you've received, are producing more fruit and have more intentionality for evangelism.